All right. Hello, hello, hello. I just realized that I'm going to have to change that placeholder image that I show at the beginning of the streams now because we have a new logo. So I'll have to get Steve to cook something up. So, at the end of the last stream, I haven't really done any code on this really since then. We kind of built out this view and we were working on this like fulfillments table thing down here. So I messed around with this a little bit more since then, but really it's still just showing kind of this superficial top level information. So what I want to work on is making these sort of like expandable and collapsible so you can see some more details about the fulfillment attempt. And I haven't really thought through too much about what it's going to look like or how it's going to work. So we can figure that out as we go. So let's head over to our orders show blade view for a second. And before we do anything with JavaScript, I'm just going to work on kind of sketching out what a full version of this would look like that shows kind of all the information that we have, and we can kind of figure it out from there. So let's think. How should this work? I'm going to open Sketch and see if I can find a mock-up somewhere so we can kind of get an idea of all the information that's on here. So there's this one, which is actually a screenshot I sent Steve, and there's this. Okay, so it's probably going to look something like this. I don't think I'm going to show the request yet because I haven't written the code to really capture that details properly. But we can sort of show the response. So it looks like generally we're going to have like a header section and a payload section that is probably just going to be like a pre-tag that sort of shows, you know, in monospaced font, just kind of some of that information. So let's pull up the database and see what we have here. So in the purchases table, fulfillment attempts. So we've got response headers and response body. So I'm trying to think. All right, so I think we're just going to kind of loop over the headers in a pre-tag. So let's just start with that. So down here is where we loop over all the fulfillment attempts. So inside this kind of big link is where everything is going to go right now. So I'm actually going to go ahead and make this a div instead of a link for now. And let's add another section underneath where we can kind of put this stuff in. I have a kind of a adjustable standing seating desk, the cheap IKEA one, which is actually pretty good. And I've been sitting all day, so I thought I would stand up. I also find when I have to talk a lot, it's easier standing up. It's like easier to breathe when your body is vertical instead of all crunched up in a chair. So let's add another div. And there's going to be two sections in here, like the headers section and the payload section. And since this whole div is going to be like hideable, I think we're going to have two more sections in there. So we'll have the div for the headers and the div for the payload. And we're using an H2 for the fulfillment attempts thing here. So I feel like these can be probably H3s. I don't know. I don't think anyone does this perfectly. But we'll do headers here and payload here. And for the response, payload is probably not the right word. So it'll probably just be something like response body or something. And let's just start by looking at that. So that's looking pretty heinous. So let's make these a lot smaller. So I think we'll do like a text SM at least, probably like a weight bold, although I've been messing around with my CSS stuff a lot lately and I might have changed some of these helpers. Okay, so it's text bold now instead of weight bold. I have to get used to my own tweaks. Okay, That's probably the right size, although it's kind of funky that it's so much darker than what we have up here. So we'll play with that a little bit. And I would normally put like a margin bottom on this. I usually prefer to use the top element to push things down instead of adding a margin top here. But because it's collapsible, we don't really have a choice that I can think of. So let's do like a MT4 here. And that's looking like reasonable. And then I guess we want like a pre-tag, right? If we want to show like some headers. So then inside of the pre-tag, we'll have to see. I can never remember how all the whitespace stuff works with the whitespace sensitive HTML tags. But we'll figure it out. So if we look at the fulfillment attempt class, response headers is going to be an array already. I wonder why I chose to make it an array and not a collection. That's okay. So let's loop over fulfillment attempt. Response underscore headers as header, or as header value, because I think they're being stored as key value pairs. Yeah. So right now these are all just like seed data with nothing super useful in there. So we'll have to do like a real one maybe after this and see how it goes. And I guess we can just do something like header colon value, something like that. Let's just see where this gets us. So that doesn't seem to be particularly good looking. So inside here, we do have some text, but it appears to be fairly invisible. So I wonder why that would be. If I set this to like color black, nothing, eh? That's kind of peculiar. Can you not put raw text inside like a pre-tag or something like that? Definitely looks like it should be showing up there. Wonder what the deal is. Color black important? No? Confusing. Oh yeah, you know what? You're probably right. Good call. Yeah, so it's the stupid whitespace stuff, eh? So I guess the way to solve that would be to, on the pre-tag, choose a different whitespace value. So there's pre, which is screwing us up. There's pre-line, and then there's pre-wrap. And I can never remember what does what. So let's look at MDN whitespace and find out what ones matter. In what way? So sequences of whitespace are preserved. Lines are only broken at new line characters. Okay. Sequences of whitespace are preserved. Lines are broken at new line. That's not what we want. Sequences of whitespace are collapsed. Lines are broken at new line characters. Okay. Pre-line, I think, is what we want. Pre-line sounds like the right one. So if we say that this should be whitespace pre-line, if I could type, I mean, that seems to behave correctly. So now we have to kind of decide how we want that to work. So let's look at my text.less file, because I feel like I have a helper for this. Yeah, text break. So it means I don't even really have to use a pre-tag here. So that means I probably am not going to use a pre-tag, because that just sounds like a pain in the butt. So let's just make both these divs instead, and we'll use our, what we call it, text break helper instead. So that'll collapse all the annoying whitespace, and things should kind of look correct. So one thing that sucks about it actually is Man, all this is so annoying. So we get like an initial line, even though we don't want it, because it's preserving like the very first line break. So it's almost like we need some way to trim like the whole thing, which is sort of really terrible. And I can't think of like a clever way to do that. Like it's almost like we have to do something awful. Like, is this going to be any better? Yeah. So that sucks. I'm not sure what the standard approach is for this sort of thing. We could try using a pre-tag and see if that just happens to fix it, because we didn't seem to have that problem with the pre-tag, and we don't. But it's one of those things where I have no idea why that behaves differently. So that's sort of depressing in a lot of ways. But we'll just roll with it. And so I have my code class. I think if I look at my base.less file, so pre-encode gets my mono font family, which is, I think I'm using Roboto Mono, which is a pretty nice monospaced font. So let's try like text small inside here and see how that looks. I almost think it could be smaller. Text extra small. Yep, seems fine. And maybe we'll do like a border, and maybe it'll be rounded. And maybe it'll be like a P4, like a bunch of padding. That's too much. Maybe like a PX4 and like a PY2. Something like that. It's not looking too bad. And here, maybe we'll have like an MB4, MB2. It's looking decent. And let's make this text like text dark soft. Is that going to be too light? We'll roll with it for now. I think it'll be okay. And we'll add a MB4 here. How is the responsive mixin working? The responsive mixin is pretty funky, actually. Let's see if I can find. It's kind of hidden in a weird place. So I have these 4 mixins for declaring stuff at different media query sizes, right? And then the responsive one takes a rule set and runs it through those mixins, but does this prefix at the beginning. So if you look at text.less, here I have this responsive thing. What this is basically doing is including whatever text is there from the parent element, right, or the parent selector that I'm wrapped in. So the parent selector in this case is going to be .sm : or md : or lg : or xl : so this is going to end up generating classes that look like .sm text center, and you have to escape the colon in CSS for this to work. But I think it looks kind of cool in the DOM, at least when I can do like, say we want this to be an MB2 normally, or like on large screens, we can make it like an MB6. And if we didn't screw that up, or maybe we're not on a large screen, yeah, you can see like that'll change, right? So I'm playing with this idea of using colons as like a screen size separator, which has been kind of fun so far. We'll see if it sticks around, but that's generally how it's working. So I get to pass in a rule set, and it prefixes everything in that rule set essentially. So it means you sort of have to understand how this works when you're generating the classes here. Like I need to know to put the ampersand there to basically make sure it inherits like the screen sizes. But it's the best solution that I could come up with to keep it kind of simple. All right, so we got some our headers there, and I'm assuming that's going to work with multiple headers, but maybe we should go to our database seeder and add a couple other headers like x foo equals bar, and x baz equals, I don't know, banana sandwich. Banana sandwich. There we go. Something like that. Let's just seed it again. And now we'll probably be logged out, but what can you do? Whoa. Yeah, and that's still rendering those. Okay, neat. Kind of funky that they're in this order. What order are they in here? Isn't that interesting that I passed them in this order, but for some reason when they get saved to the database, they get sorted in a different order. Maybe something to do with how casting is working. Very peculiar. Very peculiar. Anyways, I can deal with it. It's fine. All right, so we got some headers. Now we want to do something similar with like the response body. So this has some interesting decisions to be made, because if the server fails on the webhook, there's no guarantee that we get valid JSON back, right? Like we might get back JSON if their server returns JSON on errors, or you might just get some arbitrary text content. So there's a couple approaches. We could either just start by showing just a raw response body no matter what, which I think is like a reasonable way to start. So why don't we do that first? So let's set this to be the same as what we have above. And then instead of looping over the stuff, we can just do fulfillment attempt. I think it's just going to be response body. Let's just see what we get. Okay, cool. So we get back the JSON response body, and the text response body. So honestly, I actually don't mind this, at least as a starting point. I think I could live with this. I will say I think we need to change the color of this background in here. Two ways we could go though. So we could either do BG dark softer, which is like light softer, which is like a more kind of lower contrast, darker gray. I think it's actually going to be the same color as the background. So we have it the same color as the background, which I've seen worse things. Or we could just have it be white. Hard to decide, actually. I almost liked it the exact same color better, but I don't really love this either. One other thing that we could try is, I don't know if I still have this, inset shadow. Kind of make it look like it's inset into the page. Wonder if that'll look cool. Yeah, I kind of like that actually. Kind of makes it stand out a little bit more without having to change the background color. Let's just roll with that for now. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do, I guess, is make this somehow more of a JavaScript-y interactive thing. So when you come to the page, I'd like everything to be collapsed, and you can kind of like click these dots, I guess, to expand it. Will be fine for now. And then click them again to collapse it, something like that. So let's think about how that's going to work. I think what we'll do is extract this whole div into a new view components. Let's just copy that. And then I'm going to jump into resources, assets, JavaScript components, new file, and we'll call it a fulfillment attempts list or fulfillment attempts table. It's not really a real table, but I feel like table sounds nicer. Fulfillment attempts table. .view. I'll roll with it. Okay, so I'll add a template here. I'll paste all this blade stuff in, but we'll have to go and fix that, of course. And we'll have a JavaScript object of some kind. And then we'll have to go here and make sure that we import that too. Fulfillment attempts table. Probably something is going to bust here because it's not compiling, which is not surprising. Okay, so let's think about what we would need to do to get this working. So something I do a lot when I'm trying to sort of port like some PHP template stuff over to Vue is I'll just kind of stick both on the page so that I can make sure everything is kind of working. So we'll do fulfillment attempts table. And we're going to, of course, have to figure out what the props and stuff are going to need to be. Let's add a class to this. MB4. What do we have for this one? MB4. Okay, so how do we want to pass in the fulfillment attempts? I think what I want to do is just pass them in as like JSON decoded or JSON encoded stuff. So not sure what we're actually going to get. So we'll figure it out. Fulfillment attempts equals fulfillment attempts JSON encode those. And actually that might not work, right? Because it's probably an eloquent collection. Does this have a toJSON method? No. Does the base collection have a JSON method? It does. That's kind of cool. So we can just call toJSON on there instead. So let's accept a prop in here. Props fulfillment attempts. And then let's kind of just walk through porting some of this stuff over a little bit. So I might go ahead and I might extract some of these classes too up to the parent and not kind of bake them in, but we'll see. So instead of having a for each fulfillment attempt as fulfillment attempt, we're just going to have a v for fulfillment attempt in fulfillment attempts. We could do Ajax. We'll see. This seems like the simplest approach for now, but we'll get there. If we did Ajax, like, there's nothing really wrong with that. It'd be easy to implement, actually. You know, you just have an endpoint for it. But this, you know, whatever. This is fine for now. So there's some funky crap here, having to do all this different CSS based on this stuff. So the way that we do that with Vue, right, is to do like a colon class. So we'll have like a hard-coded list of classes. And in addition to those, we have some computed classes. So I think we can just basically paste this in as like an intermediate step. But this will be, of course, fulfillment attempt dot response status. We'll just see kind of where we get. And then here it's going to be similar. And here we're going to do the same thing, but it's request URL. I also don't know what is even exposed as JSON, so we'll have to figure that out. This sucks. Let's comment that out for now, because I'll have to pull in moment or similar. And this is going to be funkier too, right? Because we basically need to loop over all of these without actually rendering anything. So is the way that we do that using a a template tag. Am I right when I say that? Like I think you can use a template tag in Vue, which compiles to nothing. And then we can say for, you know what? I actually don't even know the Vue.js syntax for looping over an object. So if we go to list rendering, that's for value. Okay, so value key. All right. So value header in fulfillment attempts dot response headers. And stick that up there. And that'll just be the header and the value. Then a similar thing here. So fulfillment attempt dot response body. And we can ditch this for each. And everything is going to be broken, but we'll see why it's broken. Surprisingly not as broken as I thought. Amazing. So this is sort of crappy. We have this problem now with like the whitespace thing because of how Vue is treating the template tags, I guess. But everything else seems to like be kind of magically working, which is pretty rad. So let's think. I mean, I feel like the idiomatic way to solve this problem would be to so one way that we could do it, which I don't think is like very Vue-ish, I know Evan doesn't like it when people do this, is have a method instead of a computed property because we need to pass in a parameter. VHTML. I could use VHTML, but that's not going to let me do like a V4 over all the stuff, right? I think the only way that I can do this is to either make a subcomponent for each fulfillment attempt and render the fulfillment attempt component here. So basically I would do V4 fulfillment attempt to fulfillment attempts and have that render a subcomponent, which means I don't even know where I create those. Or I guess you would do that in the created callback. Do you have access to props in a created callback? Probably. Or alternatively, we can do it with a method. So let's start doing it with a method, which sucks, but that's fine. So we'll have a method called like attempt, what we call it? Something like formatted attempt headers or something. Or format headers. And this will take a fulfillment attempt. And we'll use JavaScript to do all this instead. So basically what we want to do is this is again one of those stupid things where because there's a key value thing, it messes everything up. MDN JavaScript loop over object keys. And okay, so own properties only. Is there a method on the object to do this in like a less gross way? MDN object. Yeah, object keys dot for each. That's the one I was thinking of. It sort of sucks. Let's do object.keys.map. And we can do it from there. So object.keys, pass in the object. So we can say object.keys. This is actually, I'm going to pass in the headers, not the fulfillment attempt. So we'll get the keys from the headers. Then we want to map those. And header. And then we're going to return headers at the header. And then we're going to join those with a new line. MDN array. Does array have join in JavaScript? I never know what to expect. If it seems like something that should be in the standard library, I feel like there's a high potential it doesn't actually exist. Okay, so let's do .join with a new line character, and we'll return that. So let's see what happens if we just say format headers, fulfillment attempt, .response headers. Oh, we need the actual header value, and we still have extra white space. So we don't want to return just the header. We want to return a template string of header, colon, headers at header. Man, that is grim. It sucks that we have the extra white space now when we don't have that with the this version down here. So, I mean, another solution to that is to so VHTML is a thing. Is there one that's not VHTML? Because I don't want it to be I don't want it to be HTML necessarily. I just want it to be text. So there's no directive for it, right? So the only way that I could do it would be to put it all on one horrible, gross line. And actually, you know what's a better way to do that? Let's split that there, maybe. Oh man, whatever. It's all gross. It still doesn't solve the problem. Huh. Why wouldn't that solve the problem, I wonder? See, the other thing that sucks is I can't see the computed value of it because it's not a... I wonder if it's an extra join thing that's happening. Let's console.log this first so we can see. So that's just an array with one thing in it. And if we .join it with a new line and wait for a compilation. No. So this is just an annoying problem with whitespace sensitive formatting. So you know what else works? Here's like another option that's kind of possible. We'll have to add like a helper for the text, which sucks. I mean, this whole thing sucks because I'd still like to be able to do it for the response body too. And not, well, okay. What if we just use a div and render it that way? Except we're going to lose the new lines. So instead, we do a div inside of a div and loop over. So value header in this. Man, this is sad. Isn't this depressing? Truly depressing. And we'll go back to what we had. So header. And let's just see if that's... So we still have the extra line. Okay, we got to get rid of the text break. Whoa, duh. Okay, so I think if we go to text to less, I think what I just want to do is add like a monospace helper. Font family mono, is that what I called it? Yeah. Text mono. We'll go with text mono. All right, text mono. Man, this is so depressing. This is a problem I'm gonna have to figure out after the stream and come up with a better. Oh, that's not working, eh? Text mono. Did I not rename the class here? Text mono. Text mono. Oh, we got a problem. The less file didn't compile. Okay. That's the problem with having your notifications turned off when you're doing a stream. You do not see these issues sometimes. Oh, phony family. I have deeply rooted family issues. I consider my family to be not my real family. So I always accidentally type phony family. Okay, that worked. The response body one works fine with a pre-tag. Although I don't think we should keep it. I think we should simulate this same thing because otherwise it's just sort of a sad life. Things need to be consistent, so that should solve that problem anyways. Okay, so I feel pretty confident ditching this version. So now we get like a full fulfillment attempts table. And yeah, so let's think about what we want to do next. So do we want to try and do the date formatting thing? Let's see, what do we got? Do we have a moment already? No. Okay, moment.js. So if I just do yarn add moment, that should be enough, right? And cool. So then if we go to our, I think that's one of those things that we should just make global, kind of like Lodash, although I don't see if I've done that. Yeah, so let's just do window.moment is require moment. And seems like that worked. So the one thing that sucks about this, that is something I run into with Vue semi-regularly and makes me wonder what I should be doing differently, is we can't access moment inside of our template. Because everything inside of a Vue template is sort of scoped to this automatically, right? So fulfillment attempt is the same as this dot fulfillment attempt or this dot data fulfillment attempt. So I can't just call like a moment function here. So instead, I have to use a method to format it. And apparently you shouldn't be using methods for returning values in your templates. You should be using computed properties, but I can't use a computed property because I need to pass the fulfillment attempt as an argument. So computed properties can't take arguments. So the only solution is subcomponents. Alternatively, another solution that the more I think about it, I actually don't mind, is to expose a formatted date on the fulfillment attempt. Kind of like that, actually. Let's add a function here called toArray that overrides the parent one, and we can return array merge parent to array and add a formatted date here. Well, even if you import it through a CDN, it doesn't matter because I still can't type moment here. Like, I'll show you what I mean. Before we go and do like this fancy thing, because it's not that fancy, it's actually just kind of lazy. If we were to, okay, let's see, how do we do formatting? Display dot formats. It probably takes like a totally different format string than what we're used to. So for the year, we want to be able to say Y. Bizarre. I mean, whatever. Y will be fine. I can't say moment. What? Does this take an argument normally? Like, where do you tell it what date we're trying to use? Yeah, okay, so whatever. I can't say moment.createdAt here because view is going to be like, there is no moment function. What are you talking about? And you'll probably see that in a console error. vm.moment is not a function. And I don't think I can say window.moment here either, can I? If I can, that would be amazing. Cannot read property moment of undefined because window is undefined. So I would love to know if there's a way to sort of get out of this scope and like bubble back up to the proper window scope from within a template. But you cannot. So the best I can do is to format timestamp and then pass it in and then make a function for that. Even if I use view filter, that could work. Let's see. I don't use view filters very often. Do they even support? Are they in the docs? Filters. All right. All right, yeah, that could work. All right, let's define a filter then. Let's go to app.js. And we just make that inside the view thing here. So we can say filters. And we'll call this filter like, what is this date format that we're using? Is that like a standard? Like ISO 8601 or whatever? Sort of. Close enough to ISO 8601. So let's just make a filter called ISO 8601. And is this a method? We want it to be a method? Or should we make it a function out of key? Let's do it this way. Man, the indentation is messed up here. Return, moment, value, and format. Do they have like built-in formatting shortcuts as ISO? Yeah, okay, to ISO string. Dig it. All right, so if we go back to this thing now, we might not need that anymore. And we might be able to just say created at, what did I just call it? Did I just call it ISO 8601 or did I say to ISO 8601? Okay, let's just see. Maybe we'll get something sweet. Unexpected token, somewhere that we'll never be able to figure out. The worst types of errors. I forgot a dot. Where did I forget a dot? Oh. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. I can dig that. Cool. Filters. I'm into it. What do you think is a better filter name? ISO 8601 or 2 ISO 8601? Here they say capitalize. I think 2 ISO 8601 would be better. Sounds like more the style. It's like an action. Okay, cool. So what do we got? Did I just see a bunch of errors? Failed to resolve filter to ISO 8601. Probably because I have to, if I change the app file, I don't know, let's just see. What did I do differently there? That to me looks the same as this, no? Yeah. The filter is not available in all components. So this is just working by coincidence, right? Okay, so to make the filter available in a component, should I instead put this in the component? Is that considered the right solution to this problem? Yeah, okay. This looks terrible. But you know what's cool is that we noticed that it already did what I wanted to do without putting it through any filter. So this whole thing was kind of like a waste of time. But that's fine. Yeah, I'm sure there's a way to do global filters, so I'm not going to waste my time on it right now since this already works. So instead, let's just kind of get this like toggling thing working. So I think like the easiest way that I can think to do this is doing something like v show equals active attempt equals fulfillment attempt. And then inside our data thing here, function. Actually, man, I can never remember this. We want this to be like this, return an object, right? Yeah, that's right. So we can say active attempt is this dot fulfillment attempts 0. And let's just see if that does the right thing. Okay, so we put it on the wrong class, or on the wrong element, but that's fine. So we want that on here, actually. And then I can just like put that back on the one line. But it did seem to be kind of working. So that's the active one, and that's showing. But I think by default, I actually want to have all of them collapsed. So let's set the active attempt to null. And then let's have a method called activate attempt. And we'll say, or toggle attempt. All right, and let's on these dots. Let's do like roll button. So that's clickable without having to style it as a funky button. And we'll say at click equals toggle attempt fulfillment attempt. So I think we want to say if active attempt triple equals attempt, this dot active attempt equals null, else this dot active attempt attempt. Something like that. Okay, so no. Okay. Active attempt is null. Still null. Did I get this wrong? Is it always entering this one? Oh, duh. Thank you. So that opens up. This opens up. This opens up. Cool. Not bad. Not perfect, but not bad. So I'm going to research the best way to handle these pre-tag things, and getting rid of like the leading and trailing new lines, but preserving all the ones in between, and see if people have like a solution for that doesn't seem so gross, because I do feel like it's dumb that I have to use a div and have like a loop of a bunch of divs on the inside to make that render properly. But other than that, I think I'm fairly satisfied with the progress that we made on this stream, so I think that'll be it. Thanks to everyone for coming in, hanging out. I appreciate the help. Helped me get unstuck in a couple of places. Definitely helpful. And I'll see you guys again on Friday if you're available to make it. Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your Monday. Tuesday. Whoops.